Hello and welcome to A Book in 5 Minutes. My name is Lindsay Milner from Sylvan Training, and this week's book is called Utopia for Realists by Rutger Bregman. A Dutch name, Dutch writer, not sure how to pronounce the name, but that's my best guess. This is different from my usual books because it's not directly about work, but quite a lot of the content in it is applicable to the world of work. And it's not directly about it's not really about personal development either. So it's kind of a slight departure. It's actually a very political book. And I was interested to read it because, Utopia for Realists, what's not to like? It just sounds like something that we all want to be working towards. The book is, it does have a subtitle, let me see, Utopia for Realists and How We Can Get There. So the practicality of it also appealed to me. It's a electronic book, so no point me waving it around in front of you because all you'll see is like a shiny screen dodging about, and I'm sorry the light's a little bit weird here today, so it will probably be even worse than usual. Fascinating. There's how they always have these recommendations on the front of books, saying why you should read the book and how valuable it is. The one on this book does just say everybody should read this, and I have to agree with that statement. Everybody should read it, so just go out and read it. It is a fascinating read. It's astonishing and depressing in equal measure, I would say, because a lot of it is talking about things that all the way through I just kept thinking, nobody's ever going to do this. In that everybody should read it, I was thinking, heads of state, all our politicians, read it now, start implementing the things that it says in here. But just that feeling of, it's never going to happen. However, towards the end of the book, I did, like the epilogue, he does move on to the, how we can get there. And it does have quite an uplifting end to the book, so I quite liked that. The central premise of the book, I don't know that there is a central premise of the book other than we should be working towards utopia. He takes a look at utopia ideals throughout history. He talks about how actually we're in the land of plenty as we are now, but there are still too many people who actually aren't benefiting from that. So that's where the politics come in, and you might be forgiven for thinking that it's quite a left-wing idea. And to a certain extent it is, and as I've said before, I have quite left-wing views, so I'm quite happy to go along with a sort of left-wing ideology. However, he does actually sort of take a little bit of a criticism at left-wingers as well, so none of us are immune. He also talks a lot about research. Everything needs to be evidence-based. Don't just go with your gut instinct. Do things on the basis of the evidence. The ideas that he's putting forward are really very radical. I'm going to see if I can start up the iPad again and actually read out the sort of central ideas, the main ideas that he is promoting. A 15-hour work week, universal basic income, and a world without borders. And then he does go on to say they're all crazy dreams, but for how much longer? And then he draws again on historical narrative. Years ago, people thought that the abolition of slavery was a crazy dream. People thought that votes for women was a crazy dream. People thought that women being equal in the workplace was a crazy dream. So what he's saying is that just because it seems very radical, just because it seems very crazy at the moment, doesn't mean that it always will be. And that people who believe that it's the way to go, believe in this as a utopia, need to promote the idea and talk more about these ideas, and in time they will become accepted and mainstream. And as I say, it is evidence-based. I mean, people might say the universal basic income doesn't work, we can't afford it. He shows us how we can afford it. And he shows us how it does actually help, using evidence from pilots, from trials that people have done. So I can't say more than just go out and read. Oh, sorry, one other thing that does relate to work, he talks a lot about what he calls bullshit jobs. Jobs that are not adding any value to the world. Jobs that are just pushing money, they're shifting wealth, they're not creating wealth, they're just shifting it around, and ultimately that means taking it from the people who need it. And some people, the 1%, are kind of amassing all of the wealth for themselves. Bankers, lawyers, advertisers, behemoths like Facebook and Google. He talks about how they're amassing all the wealth for themselves. They're not actually adding any value to the world. They're not creating wealth. And that ultimately what we need to do is, if we work to a 15-hour work week, move to a 15-hour work week where people are doing jobs that actually do something useful for the world, and then that frees us all up to spend time on things that also add value to the world, to art, music, volunteering, caring, all of these things which are not currently counted in, for example, the GDP of any country. So again, I just come back to, please go out and read this book. That's Utopia for Realists by Rutger Bregman. Utopia for Realists and How We Can Get There. That's this week's book in 5 minutes. Well, a bit more, but it's such a wonderful book. It deserves more. I'm Lindsay Milner, and until next time, I will see you soon. Bye.